Hello, I'm Derrick Goold from the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, joined by Rick Hummel of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch here at Cardinals spring training in Jupiter, Florida. It's 2018. The team is starting to show up. Many of the players have already been here for several weeks, Rick, but pitchers and catchers officially report on Tuesday. Workouts begin Wednesday, and then a week from now, the position players come in for what will be very swift full squad workouts before games begin. Rick, for you, this is how many spring trainings?
This is 41. This is my 21st here and 20 in St. Petersburg.
20 in St. Oh, the 21st here. So this is the one that tips the scales.
That's right.
To Jupiter, to the East Coast. Do you miss St. Pete?
I miss it. More expensive to live here, but probably more to do here also.
Probably more, but and better ballpark than Al Lang?
No, Al Lang Park was pretty cool. You know, the press box was a little small. So.
And didn't you work in a shower?
If they, at this time of the year, yeah, when they were at the complex, you had to work. It was like the umpire's dressing room, and the shower was right there, and there were like two chairs, and that was two folding chairs.
Are all the springs starting to? Do they all have familiar feels, or are they all vastly different?
I think you remember something that happened every spring almost. You know, some of them were about the same because the managing situation has been pretty constant. You know, when I started. Early on, Vern Rapp was the manager, and then Boyer, and then Waddy took over for 10 years, and then Torrey took over for 6 years, and then Russo took over for 16 years, and now this is Mike Matheny's 7th.
All right. Well, some of the things that stood out from recent spring trainings in 2011, it was probably the look on the team's face when they learned Adam Wainwright would be lost for the full season. You look back to 2013 spring training, and maybe Trevor Rosenthal was one of the things that stands out, and the impression that he made, and the reality that you thought this guy is going to play a role in this team down the road. You had last year injury to Alex Reyes and Johnny Peralta. The year before that, it was the day when Jose Oquendo was announced as not coming to the team, and kind of the pall that fell over the clubhouse at that point. This year, what's your sense of going in? Do you have a feel for maybe what could be the signature of this spring?
I think as far as injuries, you have Reyes as a given coming back from his elbow surgery, but Wainwright is the more mysterious. He had elbow surgery too of a lesser significance, but he's a lot older than Reyes and didn't throw very hard last year and got by on gumption and guile pretty much to win 12 games. You'd think he could win more than that if he was actually healthy, but we don't know.
One of the things that really stood out to me is I've been here for 14 spring trainings, the 15th year on the beat, and there are spring trainings where this team comes in with a swagger where, you know, they don't just expect to contend for the division. They expect to have a pennant and to be playing in the World Series. They walk in here with an outfield that had Reggie Sanders, Jim Edmonds, Larry Walker, and a first baseman named Albert Pujols, catcher Yadier Molina, Scott Rowland. You know, they've had a pitching staff that has included Chris Carpenter and Mark Mulder, a pitching staff that was built around Chris Carpenter and Adam Wainwright, 2 Cy Young Award finalists at one point. And they come in with that kind of bravado. I'm struck by maybe this year's team coming in with a bit more questions than we're used to. Is that a fair description?
Oh, absolutely. Right now, it's one foot after the other. You know, you don't get too far ahead of yourself. You just try to get better.
I thought you said something interesting on the podcast about how there is only a few teams whose season starts in April, right? The teams like Washington.
Veteran team, and the Cubs are a veteran team now.
For the Cardinals, when does it start?
Today or tomorrow or Wednesday, really, when the pitchers and catchers actually work out. They have ground to make up. The other teams have already made up that ground.
Last thing I want to ask you is last year's spring training, we saw in the closing weeks of the Grapefruit League play as games were going on, a very crisp, a very strong team, one that seemed to both have depth and a lot of different ways to score, good pitching. All of that vanished when the bell rang, when the game started to count, and you saw, you know, Dexter Fowler and Matt Carpenter struggle a little bit. The lineup really wheeze for runs and have to find different ways to score. The defense slacked. I mean, we saw good defense down here, and it didn't translate into the season. How do they bridge that gap this year? How does the team that we see in spring training, if they're able to achieve the kind of quality that they want in Grapefruit League play, how do they translate that? Is it as simple as bringing Jose Oquendo north? Is it something more? How do they take success here and apply it to success in the season?
Well, it seems almost too obvious, but they missed the playoffs 2 years in a row. Jose Oquendo has not been the third base and infield coach for 2 years in a row up north. He's been the infield coach down here. That's why they played so well down here. And Willie McGee has never been the coach here, but he's been around in the minor league system. And now Willie McGee has got the guys he's had in the minor league system. They're here now.
So one thing we know is it certainly seems like the team is going to try to have Dexter Fowler as the leadoff hitter, but the rest is sort of up for grabs. Who's the closer? What does the rotation look like? The health of players. And also, as Rick was just talking about there, the fundamentals of this team. All of these things are going to be stuff to watch during spring training, and all of it will be covered at stltoday.com. We have plans for blogs constantly, video from David Carson, who's behind the camera here. We have columnists rotating through. Benjamin Hockman is here to begin. All of us will be doing chats. We have the podcast, the best podcast in baseball. So plenty of ways, plenty of avenues for you to find out about what's going on down here. Plenty of content for you to surf through, and we'll be bringing it to you constantly. For the Post-Dispatch and Hall of Fame writer Rick Hummel, I'm Derrick Goold. Thanks for joining us.